Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are featuring Stridor from Masters of the Universe Origins line. Stridor is the heroic armored warhorse. Alright, so this is a very large toy. The box is gigantic, and I'm having a hard time fitting it under my camera. So we're going to try to do this review to the best of my ability. So let's get started. First off, like I said, this box is gigantic. You're looking at a box that's probably about probably close to 14 inches long. It's huge. Stridor looks amazing inside. I mean, I'm very excited to check this out. The box art's awesome. As usual, on the top we have this amazing illustration. We have Skeletor and the Roton. We have Fisto. We have He-Man riding Stridor coming out of Castle Grayskull. In the background, you can kind of see a silhouette of what I believe is Sunman. And we have Screech right here. On the side of the box, we have Skeletor's dragon from Dragon Blaster Skeletor. On the back, alright, I'm not sure if you can see it. On the back, we have Zor, we have Stridor, we have Castle Grayskull again, and Stridor. Some of the play features, you can replace the helmet, so it comes with two different helmets. It comes with a display base that you can like plug into Castle Grayskull, which is cool. And here's the display base, and there's actually like a clear post, so you can actually pose Stridor in all sorts of cool poses. Some of the new figures for 2022, we have Flying Fist He-Man, we have Stridor, Terraclaw Skeletor, Sorceress, Buzz-Off, Stratos, and Jitsu. So these four figures on the bottom I've already previously reviewed. I have yet to find Flying Fist He-Man and Terraclaw's Skeletor. I recently purchased the original vintage Flying Fist He-Man, so I might do a review of the vintage one in the near future. Okay, so let's get started. Like I said, this box is gigantic. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna open this on camera. Alright, just give me a moment. I'm trying to cut the tape off. Alright, so this is like, I'm like a mint on card collector half the time. I say that all the time, but I think of all the vehicles that we've got in the Origins line, I think this might be my favorite package design, and it's going to kill me that I might have to throw this box out just because it's pretty large, and I don't think I want to keep the box around. I'm more about just taking the figure out, at least for this toy anyways. But yeah, the box art's amazing. I'm really hoping at some point in the future Mattel releases a collected edition, like a hardcover book, where all they do is just collect all the, the cool box art that they've given us for like Origins. Okay, so first impressions of Stridor while he's in the tray. It looks great. I think of all the vehicles and play sets we've gotten for the Origins line, I think you really get a lot of bang for your buck with this guy. You have blast effects on the back up here. Stridor himself is a very large steed. It's cool that you get a display base. It was kind of awesome too. I didn't get it, but there was that Target exclusive 2-pack with Battle Armor He-Man that was colored in chrome, that came with the battle damaged Battle Cat, and that came with a display base also. So I think it's neat how they're including these display bases. Here's his weapons that mount onto his armor. Here's the extra helmet, and over here, as you can see, here's the clear post for the display stand. Alright, so I'm not sure if there's an easy way of getting this guy out, so let's just get to it anyways. Okay, I'm sure there's an easier way of doing this, but right now I can't figure that out. So I'm just gonna try to remove the plastic tray from the cardboard and see if that'll allow me access to all those zip ties that's holding them down. Alright, here's one part of the display base. Here's the clear posts. Okay, so here are the blasters. They look to be identical. No, they're not. So each one of these, I'm not sure if my camera's going to catch it, but one of them, there's a number here. This is designated number 1, and this one's designated number 3. Set these aside. All right, let's move Stridor aside for a second. All right, here's the post. We got the 3 blast effects right here. And lastly, we have the other helmet. Set that aside. Okay, so we have one Stridor right here. Let's get this guy in a neutral position. Alright, it's very odd for me to move his legs because I'm so used to the original toy. And if you had the original toys, the legs weren't necessarily articulated. So this is just very weird to me. Alright, we got that. So far, the quality and the build feel fantastic. It really feels like you're getting a really nice, well thought out and well designed action figure here, or vehicle. We'll put him right here. So his reins came out of his mouth. Just kind of pose him. Let's put his reins right here. I just want to lay out all the accessories so you see what you're getting with him. He comes with an additional helmet right there. We have the 2 blasters right here. Let's get this. this out. We have the stand. Here's the display stand. Here's like the small fence. Here's the clear post for the stand. And we have also 3 blast effects. We have 1, 2, and then 3. So yeah, for the amount of money you're paying for this guy, you're really getting your money's worth. There's a lot here. It's really awesome. Very stoked. Okay, so let's start off with the display stand. It's kind of like a very similar color to Castle Grayskull. It's kind of like that light seafoam kind of green. There's a nice texture to it. The brickwork, the sculpting is really nice. There's some pebbles, some cracks. You run your fingers along it, you can kind of feel that rough texture. Likewise, the fence here, nice wooden texture. None of the nails or studs are painted, but that's okay. You know, if you're a customizer, you can easily just add that detail. Likewise, if you're a customizer and if you really want to make this thing like really stand out, you could probably like repaint it, add a wash, some dry brushing. And it looks like this to be the tab that connects to Castle Grayskull. Here's the fence. So the fence is going to plug in over here. Again, really nice wood grain texture. You know, there's some nails, some studs. Texture on both sides. Here we have the display stand, or the post. This looks to be similar to the one they used on the Sky Sled. I'm not 100% sure if it's the exact same thing, but it kind of reminds me of it. And this part is articulated. You could hear the ratchet. It's really nice and loud. Okay, so the bottom of the box had the instructions on how to assemble the stand. So just give me a second. I'm going to take a look at that real quick. Okay, so for the display stand, alright, the instructions had it so that here's your fence, and then there's the clean side here, and then on the opposite side, even though there's a texture, this one kind of has the mold lines and the circle impressions. So judging from the instructions, you want this side of the fence to face this way. So you have those little circles, you want those facing this way. So then just plug this in. And then once it's plugged in, they lock into place. The only way you'll be able to remove this is if you kind of like unstress these tabs outward, but I would kind of like refrain from doing that because, you know, you don't want to accidentally crack them. So just keep that in mind when you're assembling this. Just make sure you're putting in your fence the right way. As for this, the instructions don't have any clear directions on how this is going to be attached. I'm not sure if it goes in only one way. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so if you look at the socket here, there's a slight notch right there and another notch right there. And if you look at this, it looks like it's actually keyed in, and then there's the tab that plugs into the notch right there. So this will only plug in one way. You want to make sure that this little tiny notch right there is going to key into that slot. So you align it, and then it just snaps into place. Again, once this is plugged in, it's pretty much permanent. Unless you like unstress these tabs outward and pull this out. But I'd you know, stay away from doing that because you don't want to stress these tabs out. Alright, so here's the completed display stand. It looks nice. Okay, let's get to the main event. Let's take a look at Stridor himself. All right, without the accessories attached, let's just take a look at them. Let's remove this helmet. The helmet comes off pretty easily, and it kind of locks into place because there's this slot here for the ears, and then once the ears are kind of in, the ears kind of hold the helmet in place, so it's not going to come off. See, it's kind of snug. All right, so let's take these aside. All right, so here's Stridor. He looks awesome. If you want to see a size comparison of him next to a figure, just give me a second. All right, so we have Origins He-Man over here, and this gives you a good idea of how tall and how long Stridor is. So you can see it's a very considerably large steed for He-Man and other figures. He really towers over He-Man. It's a nice size. Here's a profile view. As you can see, the sculpting on the head's really well done. He kind of has metallic bands covering his face. Nice texture. It's almost like a leathery texture towards the top of his head. His neck is segmented into separate metal bands. Much like the original toy, there's kind of that sticker. It's like a crest. So this is actually a sticker, and it's actually, you can actually feel the impression of the plastic where this dips in and the sticker is placed. I like that a lot, just because if the sticker was placed on a flush surface, it's more likely to peel off. But since the plastic here has a slight small impression where the sticker is going to fall in, you don't have to worry about these stickers unfurling. But that's not 100% the case for the console. Even though the console does have a recessed platform for the sticker, my sticker is kind of misaligned. So on the right side, it's kind of the potential for it to come unfurled is a little bit higher than on this side. So my sticker was placed slightly off center. Again, this is one of those situations where I kind of wish instead of a sticker, they would have this sculpted into details. Nice sculpting on his torso here. On his sides, there's some vents, studs. Nice relief detail here on his butt. On the back of the seat, again, there's another sticker. Mine, it's not placed on perfectly. There's a couple of air bubbles on mine. Here's his butt cannon. The tail. Alright, so I'm not sure if the tail's articulated or not. Like, the gun is articulated, it'll swivel. And if I remember correctly, the old tail used to rotate. This one, it feels a little gummy, so I don't know if this is meant to be moved or not. And I don't want to risk twisting it because I don't know. If this thing isn't meant to be moved, I wouldn't, attempt it. Just because you don't want to tear this plastic, because this plastic's a little bit softer, a little bit more rubbery than this material. So it feels like if anything's going to be prone to breakage, it'd be this. Nice detail on the legs. As you can see, there's some pistons sculpted in and silver highlighting on the pistons. There's some silver application on the axle of the legs and again on the knees. From a front view, you can kind of see there's that sticker, much like the original toy where there's the vents. Here's Stridor's head. Opposite profile, more of the same. So this is the side where, alright, again, same sticker. And there's a view of his butt. This almost looks like a vintage microphone. Alright, in terms of articulation, Stridor's head, it'll dip down that much, peak up about that high. His mouth is articulated. It's on a spring, so it closes by itself. Really cool. His head, it rotates a little, but it kind of fights back. So I'm not sure if my ball joint's just a little stuck, but yeah, I don't want to force it too much. So yeah, if his head's supposed to rotate, I don't know if mine's gonna do that. But at the very least, when it, he could nod very easily, peek up. But in terms of twisting it, it's an oval, so it's not gonna rotate for some reason. But here at the top of the head, maybe it will. I might have to check out someone else's review, but for mine, it doesn't feel like it wants to turn. But that's okay. I'm not gonna force it. As I stated earlier, the cannon can rotate, and this is the bread and butter of the toy, the leg articulation. It's nice to finally have nice articulated legs. So you could kick up in the front legs, ankle articulation, and the same with the back. And it's nice too because this upper part is ratcheted, and you can kind of feel the ratchets. It feels like the rear ratchet's a lot stronger than the front, though. You can even hear it snapping. Whereas for some reason, the front legs, they don't ratchet like the rear ones. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's odd that the rear legs ratchet, and these ratchet also, but they don't have that kind of like really satisfying like snap that you hear with these. All right, so let's attach some of the accessories. So he comes with 2 blasters. Like I said, they're not identical. One's keyed as number 1, one's keyed as number 3. Looking at them, I don't think there's anything physically different about them. So I think they'll plug in anywhere. So this will plug in here. I'm not sure if it's a permanent, like once you plug it in, I'm not sure if it's permanently attached. Okay, so from what I gather is that, all right, there's the fatter end. So you want to plug the fatter peg into the socket, not the skinnier one. All right, so it's a really tight and snug fit, but to be honest, I kind of would expect more from this. Like this is a piece, especially if you're a child, this is something you're easily going to lose because it's held in place by friction. It's not like it plugs and snaps into place. It's just a tight, snug fit, so it's just friction based. So I kind of feel like if you're a kid playing with this is something you might lose like in a sandbox or in like your toy box. And the peg is kind of short too. It's not that long. So it's kind of somewhat disappointing in that sense. It's a tight fit though, don't get me wrong, but I would kind of appreciate more if once you plugged it in, it'd be permanent because the peg is short, and I feel like if you keep on rotating these up and down over time, it's going to loosen, and then these might just eventually fall off. But they look nice though, once they're attached. This is pretty cool. There's the reins. This is the center mouthpiece, so it's kind of awesome since his mouth is spring-loaded. You just place this in, and it'll close on itself. And then you have the reins. You have the 2 different helmet options. This one looks a little bit more graceful. This is for like, for example, if He-Man decides to take Stridor to like the horse show and he wants to like enter Stridor into like a horse competition. This is much more graceful in its design. This is like fancy. This is like ceremonial headwear. Versus this one, this looks like it's, this is for Stridor when he's ready to go into battle. Offers a lot more protection at the snout and around the eyes. This one's, like I said, this is a little bit more graceful. In some ways, if you wanted to, I guess you could even say one's a little bit more feminine, one's more masculine. This, I don't know, for some odd reason, immediately when I looked at this, for some reason I just thought of like She-Ra or Tila because of its design. There's something about this thing's design, especially around the trim and the pattern, like this kind of reminds me of some of the design elements of the female characters. This one looks like it's covered more so like with leather straps and armor plating. For me, I'm probably going to opt with, let's take a look at both of them first. So we'll try the much cleaner design. So you have that. I guess it's kind of cool too. It's the nice thing with having the different helmet options that if you're like interested in army building, you could buy a bunch of these and then you could have like your like cannon fodder troops riding their steeds with the plain helmet. And you know, if you want the captain of the guard or man at arms, they have the you know, the Stridor with like the much more aggressive, you know, helmet design. So this looks more like this is the one in charge. So this one looks cooler, but I don't know. I kind of like this one a little bit more. I think it, for me, I just like the overall look of it. It looks nice. This one looks, don't get me wrong, this looks awesome, but I feel like once this one goes on, I think the details kind of overpower the rest of this figure. You know, I think all of a sudden this draws a lot of attention to the head with this design because there's so much going on. Whereas this one, once this is on, it just kind of complements the piece. You know, it just kind of finishes off the look. It doesn't draw too much attention to it. You know, it's a little bit more balanced. In terms of like putting a figure inside of Stridor, here he is. There's a seat. And my He-Man just broke in half. Let's get him inside. It's not the cleanest fit since He-Man has this strap on the back of his harness, but you kind of get the point. I remember as a child, I always thought it was kind of weird that He-Man like plugged himself into Stridor. You know, it's kind of like driving around in a car, just because he didn't straddle him. But that, you know, that makes sense because, you know, this isn't a horse, it's like some sort of robot horse. It's not the cleanest fit, but, you know, it does fit the figure and, you know, does what it's supposed to do. I'm not sure if I could find a nice way to actually pose him inside of here without him kind of flopping around a little. I think that was one of the nice things about the old G.I. Joe figures from the 80s is that the old G.I. Joes, they kind of had that socket in their back. And then some of the vehicles on the chair, they'd have that peg, so you'd be able to plug the figure in. This kind of floats around, and the way these figures are articulated, it's not like he has a good seating position to begin with. So, yeah, you might have to fight a little to get this guy to fit in nicely. It's not that it's a tight fit, it's just a little too loose, in my opinion. You know, it kind of floats around and jostles in there. Here are the blast effects before I forget to talk about these. They're colored blue. You just plug them in. They're a little heavy too, so. But it seems like the cannons, the fit snug enough where I can hold these up. All right, I said this before with some of the Transformer videos. Some Transformer figures from a few years ago, they came with blast effects also. I'm not sure what material this is, but this is a very soft, rubbery plastic. Some of the Transformers that came with blast effects, over time, their blast effects would start to melt. Just because of the plastic they're using. So my advice with these, like, I'm not sure if these are made of a similar material. But, you know, if you're going to display your Stridor with these blast effects, you know, every now and then just take a peek at it just to make sure that this plastic isn't, like, melting or doing anything weird. You know, I'm always leery of these rubbery plastics because over time, sometimes they do kind of, like, melt. But I'm not sure what material Mattel is using for these. For all I know, these might be, like, top-notch materials, and you might not have to worry about that. Here's the stand. So if you want to display Stridor in like some sort of dynamic pose, like where he's like, you know, like standing up on his hind legs or something, you can recreate that with this, and it's just adjust the top part like that, and it's a nice firm it plugs in nice and firm. You know, if you want to pretend that, you know, He-Man's entering a horse competition and he's jumping over the hurdles, you know, you can easily recreate that pose. So it works. It's awesome. And this unplugs easily too. I was kind of worried that once this plugged in, it'd be kind of hard to remove, but that's not the case. So excellent stand. I like this a lot. Okay, let's get this back in a neutral position. Alright, so on the subject of Stridor and armored steeds, here is Stridor's nemesis. Alright, here is Night Stalker. Now this is the original vintage toy. I bought this a couple of years ago, and I had to this guy was a mess. I had to clean him up. His guns were all bent, so I had to reshape them. The stickers were a mess, so I had to like give them new stickers. And these were stickers I just made myself in Photoshop and reprinted them out. So, but this gives you the idea of the scale of the original toy next to the new one. As you can see here, the new Stridor, it's very comparable in its size. They're almost the same size, I'd say. The nice thing, though, is that Stridor has the articulated legs. This guy's legs, they were not articulated. It was one of those weird things that even as a kid, it like kind of baffled me. Just because when you look at it, it seems like, you know, there's going to be articulation at these joints, but they don't move. Yeah, so I think they did an excellent job of taking the original design and this, you know, with modern engineering, just giving it all the bells and whistles of a modern toy. You know, this has all the articulation that this one should have had back in the day, but, you know, because of the technology at the time, they couldn't do it, and also because of cost. So this is what I was talking about, the tail. This one's tail just kind of flops around. This one's tail, I'm not sure if it's supposed to move. Like, if you buy this toy and you handle this tail, mine feels kind of like gummy and stuck into place. This does not feel like it wants to rotate, so I'm not going to force it. Whereas the original toy, his tail wags pretty easily. So here's some comparisons. You know, the detailing on the cannon's very similar. The tails are very similar, even in their sculpting. The torsos, you know, if you look at the designs, very similar. So yeah, the original toy and the new toy, it's awesome. You know, the new toy is not designed so different that, you know, you wouldn't be able to display it with the older ones. You know, if you still have the original toy, you could easily display it next to this guy, and maybe from like 3 feet of distance, it'd be hard to tell the difference. Yeah, so this is awesome. Okay, so let's talk numbers here. How do I rate Stridor? To be honest, I know I'm pretty generous about giving perfect scores, and I gotta say, this one's perfect. This is easily a perfect toy. You know, for the price you pay, for the accessories you get, you know, this guy really delivers. You get a lot of bang for your buck. It's an awesome steed for your Masters of the Universe characters. It makes me really excited to see, you know, when we get Night Stalker, you know, just so we can complement the pair. So yeah, excellent toy. Can't recommend it enough. You know, if you're a Masters fan, this is, I think, a must purchase. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will see you at the next one.